Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Idiosyncratic Fables, a part of Wilderness Fire Productions, where we are cultivating the passion for books, audiobooks, and just overall storytelling. Since time first began, each and every single one of us has been a storyteller to some degree or fashion. Everybody's got a story to tell, but here's the cool part. I want to hear yours. I'm your host, James, and today I am just thrilled to have Jess Herring on the podcast, the powerhouse behind Audiobook Empire, one of the most respected full-service audiobook production companies in the indie publishing space. Jess started her journey as Jess the Audiobookworm, a passionate blogger and promoter, and turned that love for audiobooks into an empire that now helps authors produce, helps narrators narrate, and launch professional audiobooks, including multiple imprints and even multilingual productions. Whether you're an author thinking about turning your book into audio, a narrator looking to work with indie projects, or just someone who loves great storytelling like I do, this episode is packed with insights you don't want to miss. Jess, my friend, thank you so much for your time this morning. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for finally having me. I've been pestering you long enough about it, haven't I?
That you have. That you have. And the time has finally come, and I am just so overjoyed to have you here.
Well, I'm very appreciative.
So tell us about the journey into the audiobook world. How did you go from an audiobook blogger to founding Audiobookworm Productions and then building the empire?
Yeah, I mean, it was one step at a time, right? That's how
Sure.
all big things happen. And back then, I never would have dreamed that it would have become what it is today. But the empire was built one brick at a time. Yeah, like you said, I started out as a listener, and that is the biggest strength that I bring to the table to this day, I feel like. Because a lot of other production companies are run by narrators, right?
Right.
So that was their entry point into production and that kind of thing. Mine was from the caboose on the train here, the consumer. I was a consumer, I was a listener, I was a lover of audiobooks, and then a blogger. And then I turned that into an audiobook marketing company for about 7 years. I was an audiobook marketing specialist. Indie authors and some small pubs, some big pubs too, actually, would hire me to um, coordinate a promotional campaign around a book or a series, an audiobook or an audiobook series. And I really got into that. I didn't know it at the time, but it was the perfect time to be doing that because there was no one else doing it in that space
Mhm.
exclusively for audiobooks. And that has become a recurring theme throughout my career in the industry. If I have a particular need, I look around to see if anyone can help me with it. If there is no one doing that thing, not only do I not have help with it, that means other people who are looking for the same thing, are missing that. So, I look around and if nobody else is stepping up to the plate, I put my cleats on and do so. And
Yeah.
that's what I did with the marketing company. And then really, so I did that for several years and I was seeing a pattern of mistakes, or I mean, mistakes may be too harsh of a word for all of them, but just things that authors wish that they had done differently that they don't realize, was impacting their sales until they're at the marketing stage, right? But by that point, the recording's done.
Yeah.
It's already at retail. To go back and do anything over again would be extremely costly, right? I mean, stuff as
Absolutely.
simple as not designing the cover yourself. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah, something that superficial can really impact sales and the response that your project gets, right? So, I mean, recovering that's going to cost a little more, but that's still relatively easy to fix. But I mean, some of these were narrated by the author themselves. and they had no idea what they were doing at the time. So yeah, just stuff like that that I was starting to notice, but really couldn't help with at that point. So I decided that it seemed like I needed to get involved in the process earlier to sort of help these authors navigate the process and course correct before things were set in stone. Because audiobooks are expensive, right? And
They are.
so many of these authors are self-published, and some of them are what I call authorpreneurs. Where they are really dialed into the industry and the trends, and they're talking with other authors, and they're going to conferences and all that, and they consider it a career. But others are what I call lovingly hobbyists,
Yeah.
right? Like they are working a day job, maybe two jobs, and then they're writing at night. And this is their dream come true to have their book published and then published as an audiobook. But they may not be as dialed in as the authorpreneurs, right? So they really need somebody to take them by the hand and help them navigate the process. I mean, our entire foundational goal is to help make audiobooks more accessible, right? So, I mean,
Right.
we talk about accessibility with regards to audiobooks a lot, as far as um, maybe for someone who has a visual impairment or a reading disability, something like that, audiobooks are accommodative for them, right? That helps them be able to enjoy the book. But think about it with regards to production. What I'm doing, what we at the Empire are doing, is helping people who otherwise may not be able to have an audiobook for lack of resources or lack of guidance or something like that. We are making that option more accessible to them.
I love that, Jess. Thank you. And no worries about that being a long, drawn out answer. I welcome those answers all the time. Now, speaking of the Empire, it is no doubt a full service production house that helps indie authors from start to finish, now producing in multiple languages with imprints like Cat's Meow Productions and Lunar Audiobooks. Walk us through how the company has evolved and what it offers today.
Yeah, I mean, so that's, the bricks, right? One at a time, but eventually those start to stack up. So about every year, and this isn't necessarily on purpose, it's not a schedule I stick to. Again, it's going back to if there's a need and I feel like it's something that we can, accommodate, and nobody else is doing it, hey, let's take a shot at it, right? So that's how we added the distribution department, and we are continuously expanding that because the demand for that, especially right now, it has just exploded. Yeah, the foreign language department producing in French, German, and Spanish. And we have promotional partnerships in place that we added a couple of years ago. We don't do in-house marketing, but we have arranged several promotional partnerships that our clients can take advantage of. We never want to leave them, empty-handed, for lack of a better way of putting it. So we started out just doing production, right? And then um, giving an author a set of retail ready files and saying, okay, your bill's paid, here's your files,
Yeah.
and just expect them to be on their way, was a bit like, sending brand new parents home with a newborn. And then they get
Mm.
home and they're looking at the baby and then at each other like, okay, now what do we do with it?
Yeah.
Now what? The staff, the
Right.
nurses, they're all gone. It's just us. Um, yeah, so I started going the extra mile as far as uploading it to their chosen distribution platform for them, going in and plugging in all the metadata and doing all the button pushing. And we found that our clients really appreciated that. About 2 out of 10 of them would want to handle that themselves. But the others either, weren't secure enough in their tech skills to feel like they could handle that themselves, or they were just too busy. I mean, basically, right there are the two groups that make up the majority of our client base.
Yeah.
Those who need help, navigating the process, and those who just want to hand us a manuscript and say, "Okay, just let me know when it's done. I got to get back to writing this other book. I'm under deadline."
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, and then last August, I think we added our own retail platform, and that is the newest baby in the empire. That's the new shiny. It's my favorite right now.
I love that.
um, yeah, that came about because, being so involved in the distribution process like we are now, I see all the slices that are being taken out of that pie before it ever gets passed down the table to the author. The retailers cut, the distribution platform cut, and all of that. And I thought, well, is there a way that we could give the option to the authors to bypass all of that, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, we obviously did not invent the idea of authors having their own storefronts. But there again, that takes a certain level of, tech prowess, to either be able to build that on your own site, or, money to pay someone to do that for you, and then
Right.
to configure it and maintain it. And a lot of these authors either just don't know how or don't have the time to do that. So I thought, well, what if I did all of that? What if I did all of the work and then just had them rent out space in our storefront? And that's how the AE audio outlet came to be.
I love that. Now, let's say when a manuscript comes in from an author who is either, fully invested or who, like you mentioned, says, "Hey, here's a manuscript. I got to take off and take care of, X, Y, and Z." How do you then match what the author is giving you with the right narrators? And what makes a great author narrator partnership?
Right. So the cool thing about working almost exclusively with indie authors is they usually are pretty involved at the appropriate points within the process, right? So it's not a complete DIY. It's not ACX or some platform like that where the author has their hands in every bit of the process. We do have certain points where we um, invite and welcome author input and feedback, usually at the beginning and the end of the process. But in the middle, where the narrator is recording, I tell authors it's like when you're dropping a passenger off at the airport. Um, at a certain point, there's a line that says passengers only beyond this point, right? And you have to stay beyond that, and only the person who's actually going somewhere can continue on. I tell the author, they and I stay behind that line, and only the narrator gets to go into the booth. Um, that is something that I am very protective of, because I know that you guys are protective of your craft, right? And you need
Oh, yeah.
that creative freedom and that space to do what you do without the observer effect or anyone interfering or anything like that. Whenever I tell an author that them listening chapter by chapter as you record, it would be like somebody looking over their shoulder at their computer screen as they write. They immediately get it, and always are like, "Oh yeah, I see your point. Okay." Uh,
Hmm.
I was really surprised at how effective that analogy was, but it really hits home.
It
But
does.
yeah, with regards to casting, they're involved usually. So they will give me the parameters of what they're looking for, budget, vocal tone, accents, whatever. And then I will either go through and select people that I feel match that, to a high degree. Or if I feel like, okay, well, my list is going to be 30 people, you know what I mean? Let's just do an open casting call. So that's when I will just kind of throw the net out there to the talent legion and see what comes in. And then most of the time, I will go through and filter the auditions that come in, because I don't want to, I mean, unless they specifically request this, I don't want to throw 60 auditions at the author. because they tend to get analysis paralysis. Um, so I'll say, you know what, how about I just go through and pick the top five, and then send those over to you, and you can choose from there. And then if none of those work, I'll go back and choose the next five, and so on and so forth. It really seems to work out batching it like that for them. It's a more pleasant experience for everyone. Um, so yeah, the author is usually really involved in the casting. The ultimate decision is always up to them.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Now, you're known for being incredibly active in the narrator community, like clubhouse rooms, the narrator summit, etc. What is the current state of opportunities for narrators working with indie authors?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, how lucky are we that our industry has such a supportive and tight-knit community and that we have all of these places to interact,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because I mean, I may not be in a booth all day like you, but I'm at my desk and that is just as isolating. So yeah, I love getting to interact with people on Clubhouse and in Zoom workshops and classes and things like that, conferences. Um, as far as opportunities for new narrators. So a decision that we made several years ago was not to accept anyone onto our roster who has less than 10 audiobooks. And that was a number that we kind of had to compromise on internally.
Yeah.
Um, Full disclosure, I wanted it to be a bit higher, but I am adamant that the Empire is not where you cut your teeth. The Empire is not a training ground. We want you to know how to do your job and do it well by the time you get to us. I don't want to find out halfway through a project that you don't, have a complete grasp on something essential. Um, so yeah, I get some pushback on that, but I will die on that hill. I'm totally
Yeah.
comfortable dying on that hill.
Honestly,
Um,
if it were me, I would say, bare minimum 10,
yeah,
books under your belt, maybe even 20. But
yeah,
the other key component I would say is you have to have some level of coaching and just understand the basics of what all goes into it.
yeah. And I mean, as far as coaching, I maintain that experience is the best teacher you can possibly have. So you can
Yes.
have all the coaching, all the classes, but if you have never actually recorded a book in full, I'm not going to work with you. You know what I mean? I don't care if your coach, who is highly respected in the industry, says you're ready to go. No, I need
Right.
that proof. The proof in your portfolio, because it's really hard. It's a hard sell to make to an indie author, right? Especially to them, that this person is the perfect person for your book. They are worth every bit of the money if they don't have that portfolio behind them. You know what I mean? So we understand that it's more nuanced than that. There's a lot that goes into it, but to someone on the outside of our industry, our part of the industry, they may not register all of that, right? And it's not really their job to. It's my job to.
Right.
So yeah, they want to be able to go to Audible or wherever and see how many books this person has done, and not just how many, but the types of books that they've done and that kind of thing,
Right.
right? They may even want to talk to other authors that this narrator has narrated for, which I mean, totally fair. If you're about to invest that amount of money in somebody, um, yeah, I would definitely want to do my due diligence, right? So yeah, so we have that restriction there, but because we have that 10 book requirement, and we're hearing from so many people that, it's really hard to get to that number, which it is. I'm sure you
Yeah.
remember the grind at the very beginning.
Oh, golly.
It's not fun in the mailroom. It's hot down there, right?
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
I mean, again, I'm adamant that that's where everyone needs to start. You have to work your way up because you learn so much in that process. But because of that, we do want to be able to support those narrators as they are working their way up to that number and beyond, right? So just because our production department may not have a place for them doesn't mean the rest of the empire can't. So that's when we started doing workshops that are open to everyone, even outside of the empire. No book requirement for those. There may be suggestions, but it's never too early to start learning things, even if you're not going to employ those, tactics until later on in your career.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's where the summit came from, our virtual conference. And yeah, the clubhouse rooms and all of my community efforts are to sort of try to even the playing field a bit, you know what I mean? And prepare those people because I want to work with them. I want to be able to work with them. It's just a matter of timing,
Yeah.
right?
You have been very vocal about standing with human narrators. Can you share your perspective on AI narration in audiobooks as far as where you see it heading and how it's affecting the industry?
Am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
I'm kidding. um,
Within reason.
yeah, no, I'm kidding. I think I can euphemistically operate here. Is that a word? Euphemistically?
It better be
Um,
because I like the way it sounds.
I mean, I we published a statement a couple of years ago that was our official stance on the AI invasion. Um, and to paraphrase, I think it said something like, "We believe in karma." I remember that was part of it. We believe in karma, and we believe that authors who are short-sighted enough to think that they can replace human talent with digital narration will get
Mhm.
exactly what they deserve, which is an inferior product.
Yeah.
Um, and that is, a couple of years removed from that, that is what we're seeing happen, right? So I don't know that the AI boom has completely burst, but it started to because we are getting authors inquiring about our services who have previously done digital narration, and it was so poorly received by consumers that they had to yank it down. And
Yeah.
now they are having to pay for that audiobook twice, right, to have it redone by a human. So I think that um, that is starting to become more obvious. But I really do think that the appeal there, and I get where it comes from, right? Like in this economy, come on,
Yeah.
who doesn't feel the allure of a shortcut now and then?
No
Something
kidding.
that'll, you know what I mean? Something
Yeah.
that'll save you a few bucks.
Yeah. Shortcuts
But
are very shiny. They're very, very tempting. But it comes back to a principle that I am a firm believer in, which is the principle of sowing and reaping. Whatever you sow, you're gonna reap whatever you put in. So whether it's a half-hearted effort, well, you're gonna reap half-hearted results. And if you put in your blood, sweat, and tears, you're gonna reap the benefits of that.
exactly. And it's also a matter of value. So this is
Yes.
a part of the conversation I have with every author I do a consultation with. Authors tend to come into the conversation concerned about cost. And I try to shift that perspective to encouraging them to focus on value rather than cost, right? Cost is how much you pay for something, value is how much you get in return for that cost.
Right.
And the topic of value around I mean, is just, it's very clear that the value in the long term is not there. And that's why we're getting those authors coming back and saying, hey, I messed up. I was short sighted. I tried the new shiny thing, and turns out, it rusted pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Um,
At the end of the day, it's a thief. It has
yeah.
no ability to create. All it does is just scrape from the internet what's already existing and cobbles together a Frankenstein project that falls apart at the stitches.
Right, exactly. And I mean, and I encourage everyone in the industry to have patience with these authors for the most part, because again, going back to, what I said about the economy, and I can't blame them. I understand where that's coming from. You know what I mean? So I really do encourage people to have empathy and patience and explain our side of it to them, because these authors, remember, they're visiting from the next town over. They are not, for the most part of our audiobook industry. They're not neck deep in it like we are, right? But once you pull that curtain back a little bit, and shed light on the process from our perspective, and how they play a role in that, or how they can play a role in that, it becomes illuminating for them. You know what I mean?
I do.
And as far as um, keeping the humanity in audiobook narration or in the audiobook industry, it's not just with regards to the narration, right? Um, we don't want to become robotic in our author outreach endeavors, or
No.
author interactions. We don't want to treat them like just another client and, okay, I'm done with you, on to the next. Because that's how machines behave. That's not how humans behave.
No.
Um, I mean, some narrators like to take a local indie author out for coffee and have a consultation, in a Starbucks or something. AI can't do that.
No.
AI can't really answer their questions the way a human can. It can't, go around to book conferences. There's so much that AI can't do that we can. It goes beyond just the voice.
Right. And like I've said many a times on this podcast, I have a button pen here in my studio that I got from MFA a couple years ago on the Audiobooks at Sea cruise that simply says, AI can't cry.
Right. Exactly. It can't hug. It can't, I mean, think
No.
about everything it is think about everything that makes us human, and how much more we have to offer these authors than just our voices.
Right. So, for authors that are listening who were on the fence about investing in an audiobook, what would you say is your strongest case for why it's worth it in today's market?
I mean, honestly, the most magic weapon, I don't want to say secret weapon, but the most magic weapon that we have, as far as the most powerful thing to convince someone, is hearing their words come out of your mouth. Um, it's it's one thing to send them a demo that's on your website of somebody else's book. Maybe you're reading Charles Dickens or something, and oh yeah, this person has a nice voice, but there's not that emotional connection,
Mm,
right? But if you read, a paragraph of something that they wrote, something that they are emotionally invested in, and they hear it come to life from your voice, oh man, you should see the effect. Honestly, I encourage everyone to do this over Zoom at least once, so you can actually see the physical effect that it has on these authors. I mean, it's a magical experience from them. That's what we hear from them. And really, nothing you can say will be more powerful than that effect.
completely 100% agree. There was a gentleman that I narrated for. It was his first ever debut book. He turned his own personal journey and likewise struggles with PTSD, anxiety, and depression, and took an assignment from his therapist to just start writing a journal. Instead became a fantasy book, and it's now published out there for the world to see and now to hear, because I offered to narrate it for him for royalty share, because he's also a veteran like I am. And I said, dude, it would be my honor to narrate this, not just because, this is a book, but because I believe in what you do and because you and I share, similar battlefields. And when the final product was recorded and turned in, and also, bonus note, in this book, I got his permission, is my 16-year-old daughter's debut narration. She got to do a couple of roles in there. So proud of her.
Oh,
But
that's neat.
when I sent him the first samples, he just writes back, he goes, "You have no idea the amount of joyful tears that are streaming down my face right now. And everyone in my family loves what you have done. Thank you so much."
That's powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, you know what I mean? Like every few years when I'm being interviewed or something, someone will ask me, what's your favorite project that you've ever worked on? Right. And it's hard because we've done so many and they're all so different. And I'm sure you get asked the same thing, but that one's going to stick with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Another guy that I worked for, I mean, this is not to toot my own horn, but just to kind of give validity to what you were talking about. Another gentleman I worked for, I've done 5 books for him already, and I love the relationship that he and I have. Um, in short, he said, I would be in a very dark place right now had it not been for you and your narration skills.
Oh, James. Oh
It's
my
like, oh,
goodness.
man, thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And
See,
it just makes my job that much more valuable.
yes. And that is such a powerful argument against AI.
Yeah,
AI cannot form a friendship with an author. They can't
no,
have that kind of bond.
right. It because the relationships that we get to build with one another, not just, author to narrator or business owner to up and coming author, but just from human to human, that community connection goes so far beyond the screen that AI just can't replicate.
That's right. And it never will be. I mean, technology can do amazing things, but it can never fully replace a human, right? And
Right.
also, I wanted to point out what you were talking about as far as you had a similar lived experience to the book that you were narrating, right? So
Yes.
you brought an extra layer of authenticity to that book. You've heard me talk about this before.
Mhm.
When we talk about representative casting and authentic casting within the industry, which I am a huge advocate for, as is all of the Empire, but authenticity and representation go beyond the boxes that we check on a government form. You know what I mean? It goes beyond
Right.
age, race, gender, whatever. It also encompasses things like you were just talking about, right? So, I mean, if you were up against an equally talented narrator for that book, it was just down to you two. And all other things being equal, price, talent, availability, but you had that special connection to the book and the other narrator just happened to not have that. That's enough for the author to tip in your favor because of that human connection.
Yeah, completely agree. I actually reminds me of a book I auditioned for several years ago that came across the ACX platform, and it was within the price range that I wanted. It was in the genre that I wanted, and the main character would speak at a hybrid of English and Spanish. Well, I've got some minimal experience with the Spanish language because I took 3 years of it in high school many, many years ago. And so I did my best and was, pronouncing the words as I best remembered them and trying to flounder, not fluently, but flounder my way through these sentences. The very first question I get back from the author, she goes, are you a native Spanish speaker? And I had to answer honestly. I said, no, ma'am, I'm not. She went, okay, thank you for your time. And just because of that aspect, I lost it. So, I mean,
Yeah,
it's not a detriment to my overall skills as a narrator because
right.
I know where my strengths are and I know
Hmm.
where my weaknesses are. And that's okay.
Exactly. And you know what? Listeners appreciate that kind of added authenticity. It comes through in the performance. I believe that the listeners, if I'm not wrong, the listeners were the ones leading the charge for representative casting and authenticity in their audiobooks. And then I think the industry followed suit. So, yeah, that definitely comes through in the end product.
Yeah. Alrighty. I have already given a couple of examples of some kind of fun behind the scenes moments or success stories that I have. I want to hear some that are special to you. Give me a success story from a project that really stands out maybe one where everything clicked perfectly or where you had to overcome a big challenge?
Well, there's never been one that, where everything clicked perfectly. I think that might be a bit of an unrealistic expectation there. But um, yeah, there are a couple that really stand out to me. One of them is similar to the story you just shared. We produced two audiobooks for a gentleman who had lost his son, I believe, in
Mm,
Iraq. And writing these books was his way of grieving. It helped him through that process. And then to have them on audio and out there into the world in that format, it provided him with a bit of closure, he said.
yeah.
So that was a really moving experience. And then a little bit before that, we produced an audiobook for a woman who, um, this one's a little fuzzier because it was further back, but I believe her daughter was a double amputee
Mm,
who did competitive swimming. And she wrote
wow.
that into, she fictionalized it and wrote it into a book. And then we produced it. And that was really special because I've never seen a book that, or I've never heard a book that dealt with that significant of a disability. And um, it wasn't depicting it in a negative or a sad light. It was about continuing on, keeping calm and carrying on, getting on with life, adapting. And just because, you may have to do things a little differently doesn't mean you can't do them. And oh my gosh, did that message, resonate? And
Yeah,
that was just, yeah, I think that might actually be my favorite.
I love that.
I was so proud to have had a part in getting that out there to people.
Mm, fantastic. You offer consultations and you're very hands on. What is the most common question or questions or even pain points you hear from authors and narrators?
Um, I mean, the biggest thing that we hear from narrators is, thanking us for taking on the management of the project. Because, I mean, most of the time when y'all are contracted directly to an author, um, you are wearing multiple hats. You're wearing the narrator hat, you're wearing the project management hat. You may even be wearing the casting director hat if you need to cast a co-narrator or something like that. You may be wearing a distribution hat if the author needs help with that. Um, and at the Empire, we try to um, become a hybrid of the DIY platforms and the big traditional publishers, right? So on a DIY platform, you're wearing all the hats, you're interfacing directly with the author, but at a larger publisher, you're not doing that. All you're doing is narrating and doing pickups. You're not interfacing with the author. If you have a question about a pronunciation or an accent or something, you go to your project manager, right? And they answer it for you. We have tried to marry those two worlds. Um, I I'm passionate about working with self-published authors, and I want them to be able to retain the things that make it so great to be self-published, right?
Yeah.
Namely, rights and royalties. I don't want them to have to sacrifice either of those things in order to have a traditional production or publishing type of experience. So I'm doing the project management. I'm answering their questions and all of that. And all you have to do is narrate and do pickups. So we have found that that keeps our narrators happy. It keeps our
Yeah.
authors happy. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the most common thing we hear from narrators, especially because sometimes an indie author will just kind of fall into your lap, into your inbox, and I know that you work with indie authors all the time, but some narrators don't, either because they haven't been in the game long enough to have that experience yet, or because they have been doing so much work with traditional publishers. They're used to somebody handling the author's questions and that kind of thing for them. And now they want to venture into the indie world and work with indie authors. But I mean, basically, they don't know how. You know what I mean? Because they've never done it. Somebody's always done that for them. So we've become that place where you can bring your author and leave them with me and trust that they will be taken care of, all their needs will be met, and then you can get back to doing, what it is you do, which is narration, right? You're a
Yeah,
narrator.
that's what we are trained to do. It's our passion.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, similarly, I always say these are two sides of the same coin, right? So the benefits that we offer to narrators and then the benefits we offer to authors. Um, Authors are generally relieved to have someone who is tapped into the industry. And I'm not saying that I have all of the answers, right? But if I don't have an answer to something, odds are I know somebody who does, right? Because I
Yep.
am so active in the community. We have contacts in every corner of this industry, and I'm not afraid to ask a question. So
That I know.
yeah, we try to go above and beyond to get those questions answered for authors, even if I don't immediately have it for them. And they're just relieved to have somebody beside them, walking this journey with them. Because I mean, what they do is isolating as well. If
Yeah.
they don't go to the conferences and aren't on the messaging boards and in the clubhouses and all that kind of thing for their community. They may just be trying to navigate this thing in the dark, and then to have somebody reach out and take their hand, right? Like what a rush of relief. Um, so yeah, and so many of them say that like they never would have had an audiobook otherwise. So, that's where that accessibility comes in, and that tells me, hey, we're doing something right.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Final couple questions for you before we draw things to a close. You're known as a lover of cats, coffee, candles, and fangirling over narrators. How do these personal passions show up in the culture at Audiobook Empire?
Oh my gosh. Well, my cats are always supervising me when I work, first of all. Coffee is fueling me. There's always a candle burning. You can see it back here.
Yep.
Um, Coconut cabana something today.
Ooh.
Yeah, getting the summer vibes. And as far as fangirling over narrators, yeah, I don't know that I would use the word fangirling anymore. I
Okay.
know used to, that was very much the case. And then I got to interact with you guys on a day-to-day basis, and that I consider you more friends now. So
Completely agree.
yeah, exactly. But still, I mean, I'm blown away because again, like I am primarily a listener. That is at the foundation of everything I do. You know what's funny? I I've always said I can't listen to an audiobook just for pleasure. I can't listen to an audiobook that is narrated by someone I know because it messes with my head. It causes my brain to glitch. I don't know why, but the recognition portion of my brain that's telling me, hey, that voice sounds familiar. Wait, where do we know them from? Wait, hold on, isn't that so and so? That part of my brain will not shut up.
Fascinating.
Yeah, but actually, last week, I think, was the first time I have ever been able to listen to a book by a narrator that I know and have worked with, and get all the way through. And I've been in this industry for 10 years.
Wow.
It was The Book Witch, narrated by Mia Hutchinson Shaw. And I actually need to drop her a note and tell her what a phenomenal job she did with it. Um, yeah, I don't know why. Maybe I'm getting over that. Maybe my brain has finally caught up and adjusted. I don't know why that one was different, but that was a really cool experience. And I would stop every so often listening and be like, wow, she's killing it. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
um, for the longest time, it was hard to turn off my producer brain and just listen to a book, just only as a listener. I mean, that listener part's always there, but turning off the producer brain was the hard part, right?
Sure.
Um, yeah, and just in the last year, in less than a year, I've been able to get that back, get that love of listening back into my personal life. I used to listen to over 100 books a year.
Wow.
And then when I started the Empire, it was partially because I was so busy and partially because of that part of my brain, the production part. Um, I was listening to maybe 10 a year. And that really just privately kind of broke my heart
Mm,
because I was missing something that was so important to me and really fed my soul. You know what I mean?
I do.
It's like when you work at a restaurant, afterwards you just don't want to eat there because you're around that food all day and you might be critiquing it or you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I do.
Um, yeah.
That's why when you say eating food and critiquing it, I have a hard time going to other pizza places now because I make my own from scratch. Whether it's, New York style, Chicago, Detroit, Sicilian, I make my own sauce, everything. And then when I go to some other place, like, yes, we have, artisan pizza, I'm like, all right, we'll see.
Speaking of cats, here's one right now.
Fantastic. And the name of this one?
Rocket. She's my old lady. She's
Rocket.
16.
Oh, wow. We're not doing video, it's audio only. So, listeners, you're missing out. We got a very cute and cuddly pumpkin over on this side of the screen here.
And there's two more around here somewhere. We actually just rescued a 14-year-old. His owner died. She was 93.
Oh, that's
And
right. I remember you telling me.
yeah, he had been living alone in her house for like 2 or 3 weeks since she died,
Yeah.
across from my parents. And as soon as I found out about him, I went and got him.
Yeah.
So he's slowly adjusting here. I got some
Good.
good snuggles with him last night.
Good. 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 All right. What is your favorite genre to listen to?
Ooh, I always say fantasy is my jam. Um, that obviously influenced the Empire's name and branding.
Sure.
In fact, it's not uncommon for folks to think that we only produce fantasy just
Yeah.
because of that branding. So I have to plaster it everywhere that, we produce all genres. So yeah, I mean I'm a fantasy girly for sure. I'm doing my Sarah J. Maas reread before the next book in October. Have some of hers back here, but honestly, so I get burnt out on fantasy if I listen to it for too long consecutively.
Sure.
It's a genre that requires more focus from me, and my schedule or lifestyle does not always allow for that. So I had to take a break in my Moss verse reread, and that's when I picked up the Book Witch as kind of a palate cleanser because it's a very light, breezy, fun, whimsical story. And now I am finishing up the it's a series by Sarah Painter, narrated by Katie Villa, and it's called Unholy Island, the Unholy Island series.
Interesting.
And it's what I would call fantasy light, or magical realism. I really like that because it has those fantasy elements, but it's not high fantasy. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Most of the time, it's rooted in the real world, so you're not having to adjust to new landscapes and geography and factions and all that. So it's easy for me to listen to while I'm working or cleaning the house or running errands or whatever.
Fantastic. One final question for you, Jess. What is a dream project or genre you would love to tackle?
Um, I would love to do more um, LGBTQIA books of any genre. I always say that the Empire is for everyone.
And
Um,
rightly so.
yeah, yeah, right. So, I mean, if accessibility is one of our core pillars. Inclusivity is another.
Yes.
My favorite compliment, side note here, my favorite compliment to receive about the Empire is about how diverse our roster is. And believe me, that's not an accident.
Yeah.
I work hard to make sure that we have the right voice for anything that could ever come along, even if I can't even imagine it right now. But yeah, I would like to produce books that represent marginalized groups. I mentioned, the one that's probably my favorite that had disability representation in it. I'd love to do more of that. I want to help get books out there that people don't know they're looking for. You know what I mean?
Right. Huge fan of that already. Jess, we have to unfortunately bring this episode to a close, but I feel that you and I could go on talking for hours on end with no regrets whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and just your attention to detail in everything you do with the Audiobook Empire. I truly appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful, James. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, this has been an absolute blast. And thank you all, each and every one of you, for tuning into this episode. If you enjoyed it, I ask that you please rate it, give me a review, and then subscribe to wherever you find your podcasts, because last I checked, it's now over like 30 to 40 different platforms out there. So there's no excuse. You can find me anywhere, by golly. But at the end of the day, when you do that, rate, review, subscribe, it's going to help me to reach more storytellers just like you. Feel free to drop me a line on social media or even email me directly about who you would love to hear next. Or even better, if you would like to be a guest on the show, because I would love to have you. Also, I host a Discord server where I showcase my behind-the-scenes work of audiobook narration. I invite you to click the link in the show notes because I would love to have you as a part of that community. And as always, everybody has a story to tell. Everybody is worthy to be heard. Everybody is worthy to be respected and loved. And I want to hear your story. So until I talk to you next time, dear listener, peace be with you.